Welcome, everybody. I have 9 o'clock on the West Coast, so we're going to go ahead and kick this off. We will not punish the prompt. Other people are finishing some less important meetings, and they will be here shortly. I really appreciate the attendance here. Dozens of people are on already. We have almost 150 registered, so I'm always grateful to this community for showing up when I put on an event. And, I always think maybe I'm wrong, but I always sort of tell myself that it's because I don't do it that often. So if I did it every week, attendance might be a little harder to get. Pay attention to this quote. We're going to come back to this. Most people miss opportunity because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. That's a great quote, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people just haven't had the success that they think they should. Anyway, we'll come back to all that. For the handful of you who are new to me, my name is Karl Palachuk. I have written many books. I just checked managed services in a month has been outperforming itself more in 2023 than at any point in the last 15 years. It remains by far the best-selling book on managed services, and I don't know if that's just the luck of the draw or if it's just a matter of you stick around long enough, you get to sell some things. But I am grateful to all of you for making that possible and for buying all of our books and services over the years. So I started writing books for this community in 2000, and I started writing in 2005, released it in 2000. Writing in 4, released it in 2005. And I've been trying to do a book a year. And so we have over 20 books now. The most recent is the IT Consultants Year of Intention. If you're a member of my community, you can get that for free. Everybody else, I appreciate it if you would check it out on our site or on Amazon. A note on me, so I run an online community, a store, a training system. And I know it sounds like BS to some people who don't know me, but I literally run my business dedicated 100% to helping IT consultants to be as successful as possible. And to be honest, that has cost me some money because I do not engage with the vendors that I would not personally do business with. As an MSP. And so, I started with technology. My first computer was a Commodore 64 in the 1980s. And I started being an IT consultant, working with IT professionally in 1993. I started my first MSP business in 1995. And so I've been lucky to be engaged in the evolution of this community. And I was talking to Harry Brailsford the other day about the fact that what's going on with AI looks an awful lot like what the internet looked like about 30 years ago. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. A bit of housekeeping, not bookkeeping, housekeeping. The chat panel is open if you want to talk about me behind my back. We don't have the ability, if you dialed in by phone, I either don't know how or don't care how to take questions by phone. So we have a Q&A module. I will get to the Q&A module at the end. So queue up those questions as they pop into your head. This is being recorded, and it will be posted at the same site where I hope most of you logged in, which is mspwebinar.com. Special announcement. You can go to mspwebinar.com, click into the post for this event, and you'll see an ICS file you can download so that you can add to your calendar. Please come back to store.smallbusinessthoughts.com on February 29th. And we're going to have a sale for 29% off of everything in the store, literally a one-day sale. What are the frogs for? It's a leap year. February 29th is a leap year. So obviously, people who don't follow my puns on Facebook should. The recording will also be at mspwebinar.com. Kara does an amazing job at building our sites. And so We post up the recording along with the transcript. We are trying everything we can to be as accessible as possible. So we'll have the recording and the transcript up there. This is the place where we post recordings of webinars and things that matter. I have an end of year checklist, which some of you may want to check out. Last year's State of the Nation address is up there. And so we have different topics, and they may be of use to you. All of them are free. They don't require registration. You just start watching them. I've got a sample training you might want to download along with the PowerPoint that you are authorized to take and, edit as you see fit and present as your own. Again, my goal here is to help you be as successful as possible. Take a screenshot of this. These are our brands. And the biggies are smallbizthoughts.com and .org, and plus our store and our training at IT Service Provider University. But I write blogs and podcasts, and I would appreciate it if you would connect with me over the weeks and months and the year between now and our 16th annual State of the Nation address. A quick note on AI transparency. I love this picture. First of all, it freaks me out, but to me, this is kind of a great statement about where we are with AI generated content. I love AI graphics, even though I end up not using them very much because there's always something wrong with them. And as a writer, I am arrogant enough to not want to use AI to write my words for me. And so I don't use AI tools in generating content or outlining presentations or any of that kind of stuff. I do use the graphics. We use several licensed graphic programs. The reason I think that this picture is such a great statement of where we are with AI is that when your first impression is you look at the eyes, you look at the monkeys, they're super cute, and then you realize it kind of looks like their faces are stitched closed, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with that, some kind of lab experiment. And then you look at the hands and you're like, what in the hell? All the hands have the wrong number of fingers. That one on the right looks like it might be a foot wide, and who knows what's going on there. Stay off the drugs, kids. But, this is what a lot of AI is as well. And a lot of the generative AI, if you think about, 1.0, it is still 1.0. And if you want to know what that looks like so that your brain can draw an analogy, just ask AI to generate almost any graphic on almost anything. Having said that, we got some very beautiful AI generated graphics here. So today's agenda, we're going to have a few announcements, kind of a summary of 2023, looking forward to 2024. I have one somewhat dire prediction, but in the end, I think it's great news for SMB IT Consultants. And so we're going to talk about why I think the future, your future, is so bright. So last year was really, to me, I had predicted and I was right. It's sort of the end of the pandemic in the sense that you can never go back, but we're solidly moving forward into the next normal. And for me, that looked pretty normal. We had an online conference that lasted a couple of days, had a great turnout. I can't even remember what the number was, but it was well over 100. We had a great sponsor. We did a bunch of live presentations. I got to travel, not quite the 20 cities I did in 2019, but a lot of cities, got to see a few fun countries. And, I got to, go take some vacation days and do what I like to do. My goal, for those of you who don't know me well enough, my goal for life is I want to write and speak and travel. That's it. That's what I do. So I've designed my business and my life around that. I'm going to probably travel a little less in 2024 because Emma Marie joined our family. My daughter gave birth to a beautiful, beautiful daughter who I'm going to be a primary babysitter for in 2024, and I'm happy to do it. So if you're not connecting with me on Facebook, any like baby pictures, just connect to Karl Palachuk on Facebook. So we also put out a lot of stuff. Love working with James Kernan and Amy Babinchek on the SMB Community Podcast. Love working with Ryan Morris and Dave Sobel on the Killing It podcast. And of course, I write blogs for both Small Biz Thoughts, Relax, Focus, Succeed, and the podcasts. So I stay busy. I don't sit back and relax very much because in my spare time, what I like to do is read and write. And so when I write, I might as well put it out there and share it with people. Quick note, the other thing I'm involved with in 2021, I started the National Society of IT Service Providers. We now have almost 1,000 members, and I'll tell you how close we are. If half the people on this call who are not members go and join during this event, we will be over 1,000 members. So get that QR code or go to nsitsp.org/join and join us online. We are engaged in many things. I'm so grateful. Just today, there was a post up about what we're doing with CISA. One of our board members, Chris Barber, sits on the Small Business Committee for CISA, the Federal Cybersecurity Information Security Agency. And so we are doing exactly what we set out to do. We have built ourselves a seat at the table, and we are engaged when they're talking about SMB IT consultants. And we're going to be, we had a great meeting with the legislative committee yesterday. We are working hard to give you a seat at the table. And for $150 a year, please just do it. Like, no questions asked. This is my favor I'm asking. Please do that, and I would appreciate it. Also, serve on a committee and so forth and so on. This is the closest I get to an actual plug. My community is at smallbizthoughts.org, and it includes a great relationship with IT Service Provider University. Luckily for me, I happen to own both. So go check that out when you get some spare time, maybe even on a third monitor while you're watching this thing. All right, so now the content. There we go. Now everybody should be here who was on some other call. The excuses are over. The theme for today is the dawning of a new era for IT consultants. And there's kind of a couple of different pieces to this, but let me go back and look at 2023, and then we will move forward and say, okay, here's what the next few years look like. And normally I only look 1 year in advance, but we're at a very interesting point in the evolution of our industry. And so I want to look more than 1 year in advance. And of course, you know how these crystal balls are. They're a little bit hazy for 12 months out, but they get super hazy when you look beyond that. So, this is kind of the speculation of a possible future, a little bit like Ebenezer Scrooge, right? The ghost of IT service provider future. So I am going to talk a little bit about finances. I have one guy who's been bugging me for 15 years. So I have to say, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an economist. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I have been running businesses for myself and for other people and running multi-million-dollar programs for some of the largest companies on the S&P 500 for about 30 years. And I think I have something to contribute there. So there you go. That's my justification. So in 2023, we entered the year after a very scary 2022. And some of you may recall, again, I don't normally go back 2 years, but last year we showed this graph and I'm like, okay, so that's where we've been. And that's kind of the general direction from about 15,000 to 10,000 on the NASDAQ, which is, I think, the only market index you need to pay attention to if you're in IT. And everybody, pretty much everybody except me said, well, that line is just going to continue and it's all going to go to hell and we're all going to die and the world as we know it is going to come to an end. And I said, no, I'm actually looking for growth in 2023. So my prediction was up. And again, Go check the recording because it's over there at mspwebinar.com. And what happened in 2023 was exactly that. It went from 10,000 to 15,000. So almost a 50% increase. And today, we're 10 days into the new year, less than that in terms of the number of days the stock market's been open. So a week of the stock market and all the indexes are near all-time highs. And I think they will reach them by the end of January. So I don't think this is particularly genius, but I do think that what you can look forward to is that we're going to not have the kind of deep recession that some people have been talking about for 15 or 18 months now. This morning on Bloomberg, people were talking about, well, of course, you know, that recession is going to happen eventually. Yeah, there's always going to be a recession eventually. You just don't know if it's in 1 year or 1 month or 5 years or 10 years, but it will happen. So, you know, there is a way to approach that. A new thing evolved in the stock market in 2023, and that was what they call the Magnificent Seven, only because these 7 stocks just absolutely outperformed everybody else. And I want you to remember this. This is a key slide because what we're going to talk about later is people who try to outperform the market by doing things that they should not do and that are not in your best interest. And you need to be careful about how you engage with them. NVIDIA was up 239%. And you can argue that you should have known about that or you could have known about that, but most people just went along for the ride. And if you had to pick 7 stocks for 2024, this is not a bad list to start with. I'm not giving any advice, I'm just saying. So let's look at the scorecard for 2023. So I have been a little bit frustrated with the M&A frenzy in our industry, and I'll just be super clear. If somebody gives you a bunch of money for your business, take it and be happy, cash the checks as quickly as possible, and be happy that you're on that side of the equation. But I also have to say it is a frenzy, which means it's not particularly rational. And the frenzy has cooled a bit in 2023. So I said it was going to continue, and that's certainly the case. It has sort of settled into somewhat of a norm. And that means that there are people at the high end, the low end, and the middle end. There are bottom feeders who were not here a couple of years ago. And so you just have to be careful and go cautiously. And I'll say this again, but this is the first time I'll tell you, if you have a 2 or 3 year time span for your business, that's one way of looking at your business and the industry. If you have a longer term, if you expect to be around in 5 or 10 years, then you have a different perspective on your business. So keep that in mind as we go through this. I predicted that education and certification would continue to be more and more important. I think that was an easy win. It wasn't hard to predict. Of the changes in CMMC, which are continuing today, are actually pushing people towards, okay, if we can agree on some kind of a standard and we can train up for that and we can set that as our standard for measuring success, then we have some stability going forward. That's all a beautiful thing. And I think that that will continue. I also think it's becoming more and more important that you and your employees be educated on the managed service business model. And I think that's so important. I'm going to refresh it this year, but over at IT Service Provider University, the one class we have that's free is a 1-hour class on coming up to speed on the business model. Because I think every single person in your company needs to understand why managed services is different from break fix, and it's different from having a storefront or a fix-it shop. So I think education is absolutely central, and I think that that will certainly continue. Again, another easy win was legislation and regulation. They have become central. You are now, whether you like it or not, fully in charge of privacy laws for yourself and all of your clients. Your clients, no matter what anybody says, when the government comes out with a regulation, your clients turn to you and say, hey, Karl, will you just, read this for me and implement it? And no matter how simple you might think it is, it's not simple to them. It's not what they do. It's not what they want to do. They don't care about it. They literally don't care about it. So, and last year I had predicted that the inflation would be up to 5%, and we did have inflation, but at the end of the year, it settled down below that. A lot of people were predicting it would be much higher than that. So it turns out, I said the pandemic would be fading and the economy would go up, and that's certainly what happened. Again, there are people who literally every week of 2023 predicted that the recession will start any minute and get the hell out. And those people missed out on a lot of increases in both the expanding economy and the possible gains on the stock market. And we have to realize we're not going back. You can never go back, right? But here we are. And I do have to say, the thing where I missed was artificial intelligence. Now, we've been talking about it on the Killing It podcast since the beginning, like literally for 3 years. We've been talking about AI, but every once in a while, a technology has a killer app, and that is exactly what AI became, right? This is the email since literally since 1985, email has been the killer app of what would become the internet, and has become the killer app of the internet. And the web eventually became a killer app. AI is the new killer app, and ChatGPT really took over, and Dolly and some other graphics things. But today, if you use pretty much any Adobe product, go to the edit menu and find the generative fill, and it does some amazing stuff. And that's built into everything. Microsoft is building their Copilot into everything. And so AI is, a lot of it is still vaporware. Do not get me wrong. We are literally the same as where the internet was in 1989, or I'm sorry, 1998 and 99. We had a great internet bubble. I was very lucky to be involved in some great businesses at that time, and helped a lot of companies get connected to the internet and take advantage of it. I built one of the first 1,000 sites on the World Wide Web, won an award for it, right? So I saw that, I believed in it, I lived in it. That's when I first started investing in the stock market. And I learned a very, very big lesson in the 1990s. Because I thought, wow, here's this company called Yahoo or something like that. And they came out of nowhere and suddenly they have more money than General Motors. This has to be real. This can't not be real, right? Right? Which means that money can't just disappear. Well, the lesson I learned is, yes, that money can completely disappear. The bubble can burst. And so when you think about what happened in March of 2000 and 2001, the internet bubble burst. But the reality is we picked ourselves up, we dusted ourselves off, and in that transition, and this is key, the evolution of technology continued. So while a lot of people were distracted by the internet and this and that and the other thing, Microsoft implemented Active Directory. And a lot of people said, I will not learn a new technology, and they left the business. Other people said, what's this cool thing? I'm going to learn that, and I'm going to take it to the next level. And I have to say, the first 5 years of this century, there was a massive push. People got educated, they got certified, they went and taught themselves how to do this stuff. And that's what we're going to see with AI. People are going to choose to go back to school and say, This is a little more difficult than it looks at like on its face. And I need to take a class and I need to figure out how to do this. And I need to figure out how I'm going to make money on it. So a lot of what we see today is in fact vaporware. A lot of the things that are out there, there's just a tiny bit of smart code and they're calling the whole thing AI, and that's all going to shake out. But the good news for you is that going ahead, you're going to see the evolution of hardware and software and things that will affect your business. My guess is whether it starts in 2024 or moves in 2025, you're going to start to see AI-enabled devices that say, oh, whether you're connected to the cloud or not, you've still got this AI piece that could make your life easier. So you're going to be selling these things, and you need to keep an eye out for the ones that are actually useful for your clients and begin to put those into your list of your catalog of things that you sell: laptops, desktops, devices, maybe even cell phones, right? All of that is quite visible. Like there's no genius in predicting any of this, but how it gets implemented and how you make money, you have to be finely tuned and be aware of what's going on and try to lead on this, because this is one of these few times in history, it's not going to be super expensive to be in the lead. You don't have to follow. The people who follow always make the second tier level of money. You can lead on this if you are paying attention, tuned in, educated, and aware of how this might fit into your business. So this year, my predictions, again, I don't know nothing, but I think this economy still wants to run. Unemployment is at historic lows. Whether you like it or not, a little inflation is a good thing. Inflation is at historic lows. And the only thing is, if you got in the market after the last Great Recession, well, you've known nothing except 0% interest rates. Well, that's just not realistic. So long term, what we have now is fairly sustainable, but it's going to be a rough ride. The stock market is going to go up and down and up and down, and it's an election year. So the stock market hates uncertainty, right? And so the stock market is going to be unsure of where it wants to go until they know for sure what the future looks like. And that happens in the first week in November, right? So, but remember, we are literally, when it comes to AI, we are at the hypiest part of the Gartner hype cycle. And that also means that the disillusionment will settle in 2024, and there'll be a little bit of a shakeout. But that means realistic usable products are going to come out on the other end, right? And AI will then sort of shake out, and you will know what you're talking about with regard to AI. You'll be able to point to things and talk to your clients about it in an educated manner and say, let us help you be successful with this, and you will be able to engage them at that level. And I think that one of the things you're going to see in 2024 and 2025 is increases in IT spending at all levels, starting literally today and going for the next 24 months at least. It may be the rest of your life, but it'll at least be the next 24 months. So this is literally a repeat slide from last year, because this is the slide that always is true. The best thing you can do, stay focused on your business. Don't worry about the uncertainty. Don't worry about the stock market. Don't worry about the election. Don't worry about wars in other countries. Don't worry about anything except your business. And you can pay attention to those things, but just don't obsess on them and don't freak out about them. Take care of your clients. Take care of your employees. Take care of your culture. And I'm going to go into a discussion in just a minute where I want you to just use as your anchor. Take care of your clients, take care of your employees, take care of your culture. If you can stay anchored with that, you will be just fine no matter what happens. And this is also the year of the dragon, so I asked AI to give me a meditating dragon. That's the closest it got. All right. So a couple notes on private equity. And I do have to say, I wasn't going to mention this, but the timing is so perfect, I have to. I've been interviewed by somebody who wanted to do this fairly extended story on me and what I've done and blah, blah, blah. I've been working on it, like back and forth, emails back and forth, proofreading, fact checking for 4 months. And then today I get a note that says, oh, you made a statement in this blog post that was, we saw, and it drew attention to the fact that you said something about the media, which we consider ourselves to be. And so we're going to delay printing this. And what I said was that the problems with private equity are something that the media in our industry can't talk about for a very simple reason. All the vendors on stage, all those platinum vendors, most of the gold vendors, a whole bunch of the silver vendors, they are funded by private equity. So no one is going to stand on stage and say there's a problem with private equity. No one is going to put in print the fact that private equity has destroyed a bunch of businesses or that it is bankrupting businesses, right? No one's going to give you the other side of private equity in our industry. You can go find, what are the evils of private equity? You'll find a whole bunch of stuff. But what you won't find is anybody talking about this within the media, within our industry, SMB IT Consulting. You'll see people saying nice things about it. You will have interviews where people say, oh yeah, we did this thing and we got funded by private equity and it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. Great. You will see that side of the story. But the important thing that you have to remember is private equity has a very short-term perspective. They have to invest in something, get as much money as they can, suck it dry, and then leave. That's their business model. Their business model is not to build a long-term successful business plan. So very frequently what they will do is borrow a bunch of money and, run up the debts of the companies they buy and, use that to pay, obviously, their investors. And the probability that you're going to go bankrupt eventually if you take AI money, if you take private equity money, is about much higher than everybody else. More than 27% of all business bankruptcies are companies funded by private equity. So most of you are not going to be offered that money, but your vendors will. So the basic strategy is you get a bunch of money and then you use that to leverage a much higher loan. So you've heard about leveraged capital, right? So, and then they cut the number of employees, they stop the development, right? So you've seen this with vendors. As soon as they're bought, they do a few things. One of them is that they create complex legal agreements that you can't even find, right? And so there should be a much more transparent way for you to see what you have agreed to and what you have not. But eventually what's going to happen is they're just going to take out the money in as big a chunks as they possibly can, because they've only got 3 to 5 years to do it, and then they got to go do something else. And I will say, not all private equity behaves this way, and not all private equity has to behave this way, but some of the biggies choose to be this way. Now, globally, private equity is about, the estimate I've heard is $1.2 trillion. The biggest companies, the Blackstones and Carlyles, have 200 to 240 billion. The smaller ones are 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. Well, what you're going to see in the next 5 years is that's going to increase to everything that's 1, 2, 3 billion is going to be 20, 30, 40 billion, and everything that's 200 billion is going to be 2 trillion. And so it will grow and grow and grow. What's not in this equation is you, your employees, your clients, your culture, the quality of your services. They don't care about the quality of your services. When a big venture capital company buys something, they're in it for the long term and they need it to be profitable. When a big private equity company buys something, they're in it for the short term and they don't actually care about the profit. They only care about how much money they can extract. And that is literally the term that is used, extracting money. So remember, I told you to remember the Magnificent Seven. If you take the total value of the Magnificent Seven, it is many trillions of dollars. And they are not interested in the short term. My point is, you can be successful having a long-term vision in IT. You do not have to abuse the companies you buy. You do not have to extract excess value. You can have a long-term vision and build something of quality, build products and services of quality. You can choose to do that. And, you know, again, timing is everything. A few days ago, an iPhone fell 16,000 feet and is fully operational, didn't even crack the screen from what I hear. And, you know, you all know you can drop an iPhone from 2 feet, it'll crack the screen. So the quality of these products is built in, you know, to a degree that is just almost unimaginable. Now, that's probably not the average iPhone, but, you know, it did happen. And I hope that they put it in an advertisement. But, you know, the point is, you can build quality services, you can build quality products, and you need to stay focused on that. And so when I think about how you go through the next 5 years, keep your head down, focus on your employees, focus on your clients, focus on your culture, focus on your products and services, and you will be just fine. But you also have to have a long-term sustainable business model, right? So in the channel, I do believe that private equity is going to go to the next level. They will be buying and creating larger and larger MSPs. At some point, it will be unsustainable. And they know that. They literally know that. And when it becomes unsustainable, they will try to hobble them all together into one massive MSP. And this is exactly what Clayton Christensen was talking about with disruption. When a market is ready for disruption, it means you have a few players who are so big that all somebody has to do is come in and provide some really good services at a little sliver at the bottom and get a foothold. And then they expand and expand and expand. And so monster companies, huge ventures, have to collapse at some point. And unfortunately, you're going to witness that among your vendors. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that maybe in 2024, but definitely by 2025, some of you will be left without one or more of your most important vendors. They will go bankrupt. They will be gobbled up by the competition. They will cease to exist. And there will be even more confusion about what you are legally obligated to and where your paperwork is, because they have zero transparency on that. So the market domination is always going to go that way. And this is where nobody wants to talk about this. This is the part where there will be no stages within our industry where somebody stands up and openly has this conversation, because every single thing in that event is being paid for ultimately by the venture capital funding the largest vendors in the room. And that's just the way the world is. So again, focus on your business, keep your head down, pay attention to your knitting, be very careful. And when you think about the vendors that you want to partner with, you need to think about, what are your criteria? How transportable is your data? How transportable is the most important information that you have on your clients and your business associated with that vendor? And that needs to be one of the criteria that you talk to vendors about when you choose vendors going forward. How transportable is my data? And again, it's one of these things, basically nobody's talking about it in our industry, but they will, because they have to. Because when a vendor goes out and takes a bunch of MSPs with them, our industry could potentially take a step backward from true managed services and preventive maintenance to being just break fix until we can get our feet back on the ground. Don't let this happen to your business. And I know that sounds dire, but that's the tip of the iceberg, because when when private equity gets to the point where it is trillions of dollars, it will put the global economy at risk. And, every 20 or 25 years, we have something that gets massively carried away, like the home loan crisis in the 80s, or, what happened in 2007 to 2009 with banking and interest rates. The banking and the housing collapsed, and it took the entire world with it. And it takes, 3 to 4 years for that to echo its way through the entire system and for the economy to get back on its feet again. My guess is this is the next global economic crisis. And there's kind of a race now between Europe and the United States to try to figure out, is it possible to regulate these folks? Because, if you got, let's say, in the neighborhood of $1 billion, you can buy an unlimited number of attorneys at $1,000 an hour to obfuscate absolutely everything you do in 6 or 7 layers of ownership, and no one is responsible for anything. So you're going to see this play out. Again, keep your head down, focus, focus, focus. And as Michael Gerber says, you are an economy of one. If you don't lose any of your clients, you'll be in great shape. If you maintain all of your clients' systems, you'll be in great shape. If you get your clients back in business when they've been hit by ransomware, you'll be in great shape. If you keep your employees employed and happy and educated and feeling like they're moving ahead in their industry, their chosen profession, you're going to be okay. So, you can do one thing that the large companies cannot. If a big MSP comes into your area, guess what they cannot do? They cannot provide the kind of white glove service that pretty much everybody on this call brags about. When I take on a new coaching client, invariably they tell me, we have a white glove service. We have the best service in town. Nobody has better technicians than we do. Nobody gives better service than we do. Every single IT consultant I talk to believes that. Well, I would say at the small end of the market, that's probably true for 90% of them, because we actually can, right? When you've only got 12 people or you've only got 50 endpoints, you can have a perfect disaster recovery system that just works. It might not be back up in business in 30 seconds, but it will definitely be up within a day or two, right? We can do that because it's a manageable piece. If you have 10,000 servers all over the world and you don't even know where most of them are, you literally cannot provide that kind of service. So we have the ability to provide a quality of service that's not possible with larger companies. So the larger your competition gets, the better off you are. And somebody put up a note the other day on Reddit about, oh, are we charging too much? Because I had a client come to me and said, hey, seems like we're paying you a lot of money. The first thing that popped into my head is, oh, I think I should write a blog post about the fact that there is no such thing as charging too much. It is not possible for you to charge too much. If you provide the right service, you will be able to charge the right price. You've seen it. There's so many restaurants. Do you want to eat at a fast food restaurant and pay $10 for a meal? You want to eat at one of the high-end steakhouses and pay $300 for a meal? They both stay in business in the same city by the dozens. Why is that possible? Because there's a price point for everybody and everything. And if the clients want to go to a cheap service and fall on their face and lose all their data and lose a bunch of business and lose a bunch of money, well, that's fine. That's a lesson learned for them. With luck, they'll come back and pay you the appropriate price. But just remember, it requires you to focus on your business and build a great business. Build the kind of business you want to work in, and you'll be just fine. All right, this is a deep breath. This is just my opportunity to take a sip of coffee. So what is this new era that I'm talking about? Well, you're going to have to work. And I know you guys work your tails off, so I'm not saying you're lazy, but what I want you to do is to begin thinking about your business differently. Think about managed services as a system. And this is, I put the cite here from, this is one of my favorite books. My dad had this when I was a kid, and I've always owned a copy of this book. It's called How to Keep Your Volkswagen Alive. But when you look at the engine, that's a system. And if the engine's not running the way it's supposed to, well, there's something in there that's not quite right. And you can't just fix up one thing. If you put on oversized headers, well, now you need oversized pistons, and now you need a high performance camshaft, and the powertrain, and da 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 da. One thing after another. You have to improve the whole system. So when you think about your business, think about it in those terms. How can you implement continuous incremental improvement in your business? And part of that is you need to make sure that every single person on your team is empowered to help you. You have to let them do their job. You have to hire good people. You have to give them your process so they can implement your brand, your process of doing things. But then let them run, let them do what they do well, and let them give you advice to fix the system and constantly make improvements. This is a little easier in IT than in other companies because we are constantly in an environment where everything is changing all the time. So we're constantly changing anyway. We might as well fix it and fix it and fix it. I think there's a natural tendency to cut corners and underpay employees and, that sort of thing. And all of those things are bad in the long run. So think about what are the basics? How can I empower people? And, how can I make sure that my clients are engaged in this process? Because, the ultimate question of, when a client comes to you and says, I think we're paying you too much money. Well, that's your fault for not having equalized the expectations between you and your client, right? When I go into Starbucks, I don't expect to order a small latte and have them just give me something. I got to go through this long, complicated process and use their system. And if I don't like that, then I go somewhere else and buy my coffee. That's just the way the world works, right? So you got to set your expectations, and then people have to perform to that. You also need to make sure that your employees are fulfilled, that they do see some future in your company. It is okay to say, we're going to educate the heck out of you, and we're going to make you better than anybody out there. Because when they look around, a lot of times what you see is the other MSPs out there, especially the bigger ones, treat their employees like crap. They underpay them, they overwork them, they're completely stressed out. It's funny. The great discussion about MSPs is on Facebook, where everybody acts like we're a big community. The downside, the dark underbelly of this discussion is on Reddit, where everybody's an employee of a big company and they all hate their jobs, right? Be the company that your employees love. Be the company that your clients love. You absolutely have the power to do this. And when you think about that engine, where one little component affects every other component, remember the old analogy, quality time, money, pick two. It's no longer pick two. It is, okay, there's 100 components, pick 97, right? Because every single thing you do will affect everything else in your business. So you got to figure out how you're going to help to improve that all the way. One of the things you do, avoid siloed knowledge. And this is advice you've heard from really big companies, but we do it a lot unintentionally in small business, right? I share my financials with my employees because they need to know what's going on, right? And I'm not a millionaire, trust me, but my business needs to operate in a way where people know what the hell's going on. And that way, when shit is going in the wrong direction, I can ask my employees for help and they will give it to me, right? They will say, oh, I can be kind about that. And we just had a thing last week where somebody said, hey, can I move my payment for the community because this payment date doesn't work for me? And we said yes, because it is literally the same as the Bible story, right? The king forgives the debt of a servant, and then that servant finds somebody who owes him money and beats him up and sends him to jail. You have to be as forgiving as you want to be forgiven, right? You have to be as honest and as truthful and as ethical as you want other people to treat you. So that means you got to be open with your knowledge, and you have to be also rigorous. Like, I don't let my employees, just slack off and do half-assed work. If you're going to do that, you should work for my competition, right? But we make a culture that works for us. And your culture may not be the same as my culture. It's probably not. But you have to remember that it's the big picture that counts. And it's really important that there's a great lesson from manufacturing. You cannot improve a product after it's built, right? Nobody rolls a car off the line and says, oh man, this could use a slightly larger trunk. Okay, very good. Let's do that next year, because you can't do it after you've produced the product. Same thing is true in managed services. Once the ticket is closed, the product is done, right? So you need to be constantly improving for the next ticket and the next ticket and the next ticket. The next month, you're going to do something better in your service. The next year, you're going to do something better in your service. What will that be, and how will you get from here to there? So when you look forward the next, say, 5 years, I think what you're going to see is larger competitors, and that's good for you. I think you're going to see vendors who clearly no longer care about the relationships. Many of them got where they are because they started counting widgets, and the only thing that matters is endpoints, and human beings don't count. That's how they got where they are. That's how they got bonus. That's how they got moved up to the next level. And the people who were good people working for those vendors are now motivated by the next payment and the next payment and the next payment. And they cannot care about that relationship. Your competition is going to be the same way the larger they get. So I think it'll be great. And in the small business thoughts technology community, we're going to have a breakout on marketing against large MSPs, because at the end of the day, my life, my business is dedicated to serving small IT service providers, meaning, 50 and under, 100 or under, but mostly 50 and under. I'm not here to serve people who have a 12-state operation. I'll happily take your money, don't get me wrong, and I think you can benefit from what I have to offer, but I serve small MSPs. So we're going to put together some ideas about how you can market against the large MSPs who come into your territory, who A, don't care, and B, are going to make a lot of the mistakes that big companies make. They are literally not capable of delivering the kind of service you can. So you need to lead with your service, lead with your culture, lead with what you do best. I also think you need to be very careful going forward in the next 5 years. Talk to your vendors, make sure that they have transparency in the legal agreements that you sign. Make sure that to the extent possible, your data is portable to another vendor of the similar kind of service. Focus on your clients, your employees, and your culture. So when you take a big step back, you think about, okay, I want to see the forest and not just the trees. You need a great business plan. You need a great business mission statement. And it wouldn't hurt if you had a great personal mission statement as well. And you need to build a team based on the culture that you want. Would you go work for your company? Would you have you as a boss? Would you want to be treated the way your employees are treated? And that's a pretty good guide to how you should behave. And the best news of all is that there's going to be a 25% turnover in this industry in the next 5 years, because there's always a 25% turnover in 5 years. The same thing that happened at the turn of the century when, there's a big economic kerfuffle. Technologies just kept moving along. Active Directory came in, Windows 2000, Server 2000, right? And then it moved up from there. And then in the last Great Recession, a lot of people went into that saying, I will never go to the cloud. Half of them resigned or took other jobs or just quit because they didn't want to learn a new technology. And then when the recession was over, guess what? 2008 server was everywhere, 2011 server was everywhere, and we were in the cloud. And people didn't question it anymore. And the same thing is going to happen with AI. 2 years from now, half the people, well, a quarter of the people will have left, either retired or just they don't want to learn new technology. And those who stay will all have integrated AI at a higher level and have really great operations making a whole bunch of money. So if you go to this QR code, you'll be able to get the downloads and the copy of the slides if you care about it at all. And with that, I will take questions. Please put them into the Q&A because I'm not going to go read through all of the chat until this is all over. If you put something in the chat and you want me to talk about it, put it in the Q&A. Keith, some of the biggest legislative changes we see on the horizon are employee-based, overtime compensation, minimum wage. Well, this provides us concern as employers as outsourced labor. Do you find that this is an area of growth for MSPs? Let's see, legislative changes, on overtime and so on. Yeah, it's all, I mean, I think everything's an opportunity. That's just my bias. But, you know, when wages go up, you have to decide whether or not you have the right size, employees for your company and whether you're paying a fair amount. People are willing to work for slightly less if they believe that they have job security, that they are treated with respect, that they are educated, that their boss gives them a certain amount of autonomy, right? Daniel Pink, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Give your people the education and the skills that they need and give them the empowerment to say, look, here's our process, here's our business plan, here's where we want to go. Please go execute to the best of your ability. Those employees will stay with you and they will be strong and powerful and stick with you when the competition is going up and down and up and down. And what we've seen in the last few years, you've seen it. People will go take 3 different jobs. They're all remote. They're not actually working on any of them. They're being overpaid for all of them. That era, with luck, has come to an end, or at least it's fading a little bit. There'll be a bit of a shakedown on that front. But remember, large companies always abuse their employees unless they have a long-term business plan. So to the extent that private equity money is flushing through our industry, your competition will be improperly motivated for a long-term plan. Ted, what should MSPs be doing with Microsoft Copilot today? Well, I would say go to 3rd tier and sign up for Amy's class and find out. It seems like it's early and not ready for prime time. To some extent, that's true. I mean, it's a bit early only because we haven't figured out all the things we can do with it, right? And as it shows up, it's also not as obvious for most people as it will become, right? You're soon going to not have any options but to have Copilot in your life, right? It's like many other things. So what you should be doing today is educating yourself. What is it? How does it work? Where does it show up? What is the best thing that I can do? And this is where having a vertical helps. If you serve financial advisors, great. What can Copilot do for me on that front? If you serve attorneys, what can Copilot do for me on that front? You have to first learn these skills, and then I highly encourage you to be educating your clients, whether you go to Bigger Brains and help them take classes on these things, or you train your own clients. I always put a certain amount of training, 1 hour per quarter, into my managed service business so that I could show up at a client's office and show them, here's the latest and greatest of Microsoft. And sometimes they didn't even need the latest and greatest. They need their super old, like, oh, how do we share calendars? Okay, great. We're going to go through that and we're going to show people how to make that happen. And then, they're going to come back to us for more and more and more. So I think, again, it's a perfect example. This is a massive opportunity for you with all of your clients. And spending an hour a quarter. No client's ever going to take advantage of all of that, or very few. But offering it up makes you look like you're willing to be there. And if you do it at least once a year, that's an extra hour you spend in your office where you're not charging them anything and you're giving them something of value. Tristan, do you see average IT wages overall shrinking somewhat in the next year since they grew so quickly in the last couple of years? I have to say I don't. What I see is that there will be some shrinkage in some areas. But remember, when you hear about these massive layoffs, 1,000 here, 10,000 there, some of these are just people moving from one business to another. Like where I live in Sacramento, we have Apple, we have HP, we have Intel, we have NEC, we have all of these high-tech companies, sort of an overflow from the Bay Area. They lay people off and hire people 1,000 at a time. So a lot of this, the stuff that you see about in the news, it's not your business, but it's other companies. But overall, inflation, like I said earlier, a little inflation is good. A little inflation means wages step up a little bit. A little inflation means that you get to help your employees with a little extra money. I don't think it'll be insane. But remember, we've had periods of insanity in the early 2000s. I remember people coming to me in like 2004 and they'd say, oh, Microsoft says if I have one certification for Windows 3.1, I should get a $75,000 salary. And I'm like, okay, well, good luck. You go find somebody who's willing to pay you that. Have a nice day. So there've always been those periods, and it comes and flows. It ebbs and flows. So again, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would have the conversation with your employees. Again, just the openness of what do you need in order to stay? Because we have we got a long-term plan. We got to figure out what our business plan is and how we're going to get through this. We need you on the team. What is that going to take? Right? Have that conversation and make sure that they do feel like they're part of your team. It's amazing how much the non-money side of things, when people get enough, when they feel like they got a fair wage, they will really stick with you if you give them education and autonomy and some sense of purpose in the business. The other thing, kind of a bit of a side note, is because things are always changing in IT, there's always something new to learn. You can always take somebody and say, okay, we got this new thing, Tristan, I need you to be in charge of learning this. You're going to be our expert and you're going to teach the rest of us how it works. Employees love that, right? Who doesn't want to become the master of something, the subject matter expert in something, right? And you have the ability to do that, even if you just have one employee, it still works. Amy says, autonomy, purpose, pay, and benefits. Benefits are a big win for small IT firms. Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you can give benefits, we always did healthcare. Some people don't like to pay for healthcare. I loved it because just the ability, especially if you have 20-year-olds, the ability, because it's so cheap, but the ability to pay for healthcare was huge when we had a dozen technicians. Let's see, Emmett, I'm a single person just starting MSP. I'm thinking I want to make a vision statement and all that with an idea that I'm going to grow at some point. Does a lot of this apply to a very small starting MSP? Absolutely, 100%. The beautiful thing about a vision statement is your values probably won't change. So work on your values first, and then think about your mission and your vision. Those things can change whenever you decide to change something major in your business. Believe it or not, I have a book, the IT Consultants Year of Intention. Starts out with forms on laying out your mission and your vision and your values, and then applying that to, okay, how do we implement that in Q1, Q2, Q3? What are we going to do by the end of the year and the end of next year? It's literally, I don't even remember what it is, $29. But so not that I want to sell you that book, but I think you should buy it. Also, I would recommend my favorite book, which is Relax, Focus, Succeed. Also, just so you guys know, if you go to the QR code and you get the downloads, there's a slide that I didn't put in the main presentation, but it's got the links that I mentioned and some blog posts about private equity and other things. So if you want those links, that's a good place to get them. All right. Any other questions? I appreciate all the chat. Again, I'm going to read all that when this is done, and I have time to drink the rest of my coffee. So no other questions. I'll stick around if you have them. I'm sorry that I had to rush through this, but it was a long ways to go, and we only had 60 minutes. All right. Yabooz. Hi, I started to read your book, Managed Services in a Month. I'm in the process to acquire an MSP business. I have a background working for investment companies. Would you suggest in terms of sources? To be honest, if you go to Amazon and you put in managed services, you're going to see books by Eric Simpson. You're going to see books by me. You might find Bob Kopich's book, Nigel Moore's book. Books are the cheapest, best investment out there. If you go to Audible, I had put most of my books on Audible. And to be honest, if you want the biggie, I'll just say smallbizthoughts.org. My community includes every book I've ever written, as well as dozens of classes and hundreds of hours of audio and video training and thousands of pages of checklists. It is literally, in my opinion, of course, I'm super biased, but it is the greatest resource out there for starting a managed service business, because no matter what you want, you say, oh, we need a policy for this or that. Okay, well, guess what? I probably have a draft, and you may want to edit it and make it your own, but it's a great place to start. So thank you for all the thank yous, everybody. I appreciate that. Especially to those who came to me from halfway around the world, whether that's Joaquin in Germany or Andrew in Vietnam. I appreciate it, and I'm grateful to be connected with such an awesome community. And if you disagree with me, send me an email. karlp@smallbizthoughts.com. All right, if there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and put this to sleep. I will get the recording up as quickly as I can, and we'll send an email when it's up, just so you know. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for making this community so strong and so vibrant. It is truly an honor to be connected with so many amazing people. And one of the things that we discovered with the National Society of IT Service Providers is, hey, we need leadership. And people came out of the woodwork, and there's so much amazing talent. It is actually just shocking to think of how much talent was out there just waiting to be tapped. And so I know that you guys are awesome, and that you're going to be super successful through all of this. You just got to focus on your business. All right. Thank you all, and stay tuned. I will see you next year for the next State of the Nation address for SMB IT. Thank you all.